Taylor is a gospel minister, and she also is just an angelic voice.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on to victory is won.
So before we go any further, I want to do a temperature check. Let's see. I want to find out a roll call of where everybody is from. Is it just Detroit in the house? Bring up our first speaker. Let's go in the chat and get an idea of where everybody is coming from. So let's see. Put in the chat where you are coming from, or what city you are in. There you go. We have Polly is here. She just came on. Okay, we got Ernest Russell from Lansing and Chicago. All right, good, good. Okay, good. We got Lansing in the house. We got Adelia from Detroit. All right. Kalila from East Point. All right. And as we're talking about reparations for Detroit, there's so many cities that need inspiration, and this now has to become something on a state level. The Wobble from Detroit, yes, yes. All right, Detroit is in the house. Shireen Hardy, all right, Southfield in the house. All right. We have Lukeman, you're from Southfield, okay. All right, and so she is going to bring us a rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing. And what I'm also hoping that as Detroit goes into the, what is the word for it? Goes into the spotlight, that we carry into the spotlight those people who always were shining, but now we're going to put some light on them. So one of those people, without further ado, if everything is ready, Beulah, all right, she's down in Indianapolis. Welcome, welcome. All right, we have a nationwide going on here. While we have the incomparable Janice Hazel.
Oh, man.
All right. Detroit has started something, putting me and Janice together again. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Janice Hazel has a wealth of experience. She has interviewed, I like to call Black royalty, and has also worked in the mix in many of the political settings where some people will tell you what they read about. Janice will tell you what she was there for. It's like, this is an important history that I wanted to make sure is recorded, because 20 years from now, 50 years from now, when neither one of us feel like doing this anymore, Janice, I won't say 20 years from now, but 50 years from now, we won't feel like doing this anymore. And somebody will be able to look at the recording and they will know the history, that these are people that you can see and touch every day, but you're touching history. So I'm going to let her tell a little bit more about herself, give her a few 15 minutes, and then I want to make sure to give everybody time to talk and ask questions and so forth. And so without further ado, my great friend and fellow member of the Detroit Reparations Task Force, none other than the Janice Hazel.
Well, thank you very much. That's my email address. So thank you. And thank you for inviting me and getting to know more of the folks at the local Detroit level of the National Reparations of NCOBRA, if you will. So I'm a native of Detroit, grew up here, went from K through 12, then went to the University of Michigan, and then I went to France to do a program at the l'Institut de Touraine, about 2 hours outside of Paris. When I came back to the States, I went to Washington to work for Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, and then I went on to work for U.S. Senator Donald Regal of Michigan, and then I went to work for Congressman Conyers. I worked for him for 2 tours of duty at 2 different times in the early 1980s and then in the late 1980s and 90s. And it was then when we were looking at reparations. I'm just going to back up a little bit because Congressman Conyers, as we know, is the architect of the Voting Rights Act that was passed in 1965 when he first got to Congress. And then in 1968, unfortunately, Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated, murdered. And so,
Yes.
so Congressman Conyers introduced a Dr. Martin Luther King holiday bill in 1968. And for the next 15 years until 1983, he continued to introduce that legislation. And so in 1983, the summer of 83, a couple of things happened. It was the 20th anniversary of the March on Washington and Poor People's March. And also that's when we see Stevie Wonder, which I think you mentioned early. ANITA had the opportunity to work with Stevie on a couple of times. That's when he wrote the Happy Birthday song that we all know about Dr. King and the holiday. And that's when we really got a lot of momentum. When you pair someone with an even larger platform, such as an international recording artist that Stevie Wonder is, people really took on to it. So we had the 20th anniversary March on Washington. We had Stevie Wonder, who had put out this wonderful song, Happy Birthday. And in June of 1983, we were able to get the Martin Luther King holiday bill passed. I was in committee with Congressman Conyers when that passed out of committee. Then it went to the full House. It was passed, the full Senate, it was passed. And then President Ronald Reagan signed that bill into law, which became the first year that the MLK holiday bill was celebrated, was 1986. So then the congressman said, okay, now I can focus on, and it's not as though he wasn't focusing on other things. The congressman was the chairman of the Government Operations Committee. He was also chairman of the Judiciary Committee at different points along the way. So he was doing a number of things like hate crimes legislation, motor voter legislation, which allowed people to register to vote while registering for services such as your driver's license, right? Or register your vehicle, making it much easier for people to get registered to vote. But as you mentioned, reparations, Ray Jenkins, as we know him and loved him here in Detroit. Raymond Jenkins had been advocating for reparations for decades, even before he linked up with Congressman Conyers. And so he was constantly saying to the congressman, we need to deal with reparations. We need to do something. And so after we got the Martin Luther King holiday bill passed and we're moving on a lot of other legislation, the congressman decided, let's do something. So I was a staff member that was tasked with pulling together background information to do briefings, to bring him up to speed so we could start crafting and drafting the legislation. So a part of that history was, as Anita mentioned a few minutes ago, I met with and I convened meetings with some of the top scholarly minds and academicians and historians and economists and captains of industry to get an understanding of how could we propose legislation that the United States of America, which has created the most atrocious crimes against humanity in the world, would have an appetite for. So it was decided that a commission to study how reparations could be distributed amongst descendants of enslaved people, Americans, Black Americans, would happen. So as Anita said, I had the opportunity to interview Queen Mother Moore, who we know was born in the 1800s, 1898, I believe, and was a Black nationalist, a civil rights leader, a member of Marcus Garvey's movement. Also, Mrs. Rosa Parks, who worked for Congressman Conyers in his Detroit office. I worked in his Washington office. And Mrs. Parks, as petite as she was a force to be reckoned with. So being able to get some oral histories from these people, I interviewed Mrs. Coretta Scott King, the widow of the late Dr. Martin Luther King.
That's right.
Dr. King was talking about reparations in the Poor People's March. Everyone likes to hone in on the I Have a Dream speech, but the speech that we really should look at and put out there in this utopian society that Dr. King was dreaming about is his speech about reparations and how he was motivating Black Americans to go to Washington. And he said, we're coming to get our check. So Mrs. King, of course, had a lot of insights on what Dr. King was thinking about. I interviewed Dr. Betty Shabazz, native Detroiter, who also was the widow of the late Malcolm X, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, that we know as Malcolm X, because Malcolm X talked extensively about reparations and the need for reparations for Black Americans descended of enslaved people, and other people such as Dr. or Professor Charles Ogletree, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, former president of Bethune-Cookman College, captains of industry such as Bob Johnson, who was the founder and president of BET, just a number of people, Ajua Ayataro, the Civil Rights Commission, Nkechi Taifa, who's a renowned author and spokesperson on reparations. So these are people who really founded the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, in COBRA, at the national level. Also the National African American Reparations Commission, NARC. And so those people were assembled and we walked through how this could look. And so so that takes us a few years. And COBRA was founded in 1987. And then we took a few more years to do more research. And in 1989, and I remember it very vividly, November 11th, 1989 was a Saturday. And it was Veterans Day, which the congressman is a veteran of the Korean War, but he was at work. Now, some of our staff had taken vacation, because it was a long weekend. And those are the only times that we really got a chance to go off. But luckily, I was still in Washington. I didn't go home to Detroit. I didn't go to New York, which is where the man that I was involved with lived. He came down to DC that weekend. So I was there. The congressman called staff in to put the final touches on the reparations legislation because he wanted to introduce it before the end of the 101st congressional session, which was the 101st Congress. And so on November 11, 1989, if you did not show up in the office, you were fired. A number of people were fired. He was just that serious about it. And then on November 20th, we introduced the first reparations bill, which was HR 3745, because we were at the end of the congressional session. As you know, legislation that is introduced earlier in the session has lower numbers. So that was the first bill, 3745. In subsequent congressional sessions, we were able to strike a deal, if you will, with the clerk to enroll HR 40 as a nod to 40 Acres and a Mule, or General Sherman's during the Civil War, or at the end of the Civil War, General Sherman's Field Orders number 15, which indicated these newly freed people need something, right? Land. So that's where the 40 acres come from. And then he instructed a little bit later the Army to provide a mule, because the people needed a mule to help work the land. Now, it's really interesting and very critical to recognize what General Sherman did, which was then later rescinded after Lincoln was assassinated. So think about these terms. There was something, and that's the 40 acres and a mule, that Black newly freed Americans were to get. When you have prisoners of war, typically they are given something to ease them into society. Black Americans were given nothing. It was rescinded. So effectively, our white counterparts in this country did not want or expect us to live. But as we know, Blacks in America are super Negroes, and we are resilient, and we have overcome so many obstacles that we survived. And we lived. We weren't thriving, but we survived. And that's what ushered in the next 100 years of slavery under another name: sharecropping, tenant farming, tenant leasing, convict leasing, all of those different things that work to continue to enslave people. So that is where we were. And now here we are 34 years later, after Congressman Conyers retired in 2017, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, also on the House Judiciary Committee, she took up the mantle of reparations. She's out of Texas, continued to introduce each session. And almost 2 years ago now, we were able to get congressional hearings on reparations. And you had people who were in opposition, which was, you know, Black folks who've been co-opted by the system. And then you had those who were advocating for reparations. Unfortunately, at the conclusion of that congressional session, we got nothing. There was no vote on the reparations legislation. So we're starting anew, you know, reintroducing it, which will still be called HR 40, an act for African Americans to assemble a commission to develop reparations proposals to give to the president. The president will appoint a certain number of people on that commission. The speaker will be able to, the leader of the Senate, and it will hopefully be comprised. And so what I would like to impart upon the attendees and for you to spread the message is, as we know, the great abolitionist and speaker and author, Frederick Douglass, he stated over 150 years ago, power concedes nothing without demand. Never has, never will. And when I lived in Washington, which was over 30 years, I attended Metropolitan AME Church. I'm a member of Metropolitan as well as a member of St. Stephen's AME Church, which is the church I grew up in here in Detroit. And Frederick Douglass was a member of Metropolitan AME Church. And so we have artifacts that he left the church, such as these wonderful brass candelabras. They're huge. They're probably over 6 feet tall that stand at the altar, and different things. Metropolitan AME Church is considered the cathedral of African Methodist Episcopalianism. It is only about 4 blocks from the White House. And so everything in downtown Washington grew up around Metropolitan AME Church. It was there first. It's like right behind where the Washington Post used to be. So a lot of events that happen tailored for the White House they'll use Metropolitan AME Church's Frederick Douglass Community Room as an organizing location, and then, you know, march to the Capitol or
Yes.
whatever they're going to do. Over the years, presidents have all come to Metropolitan AME Church to worship with us, to speak with us. The only president, I would say, within the last 40 years that has not gone to Metropolitan AME Church is Bush, the second Bush. And he did that when Rosa Parks died. As you may recall, Mrs. Parks, her body was flown to Montgomery for a memorial. Her body came to Washington, D.C. to lay in state at the Capitol, and her memorial was held at Metropolitan AME Church. And then her body came to Detroit, which was her home for her actual celebration of life or funeral. And so many members of the administration at that time came to the church, but the president did not want to cause a spectacle, because whenever the president comes out, Washington kind of shuts down, right? And a lot of people would not have been able to come into the church if the president was there, because there would have been so much more security. Now, Barack Obama been to Metropolitan numerous times with his family. We could not keep Clinton out of Metropolitan AME Church. He was there all the time. You know, Bush won. They all came. I'm not sure if Reagan ever came to the church.
Did Donald Trump come?
No, absolutely not. I'm not even sure would have allowed him into the church. But no.
And what I'm gonna have to do is, I know we're pushing for time, but I said we have, and I want to leave room for questions. But one of the questions, of course, that I'm gathering from listening to this fascinating history is that you mentioned what Biden can do right now.
Absolutely. What I hope that the participants will understand is the power. As I mentioned, Frederick Douglass said it, and it's still true. Power concedes nothing without a demand. We know that every right and privilege that Black Americans have in this country came as a result of what? Litigation, all the way to the Supreme Court, or agitation, rebellion, and riots that ended up providing us with amendments to the Constitution, right? And so this reparations bill, reparations tends to have a knee-jerk reaction from white America and some Black Americans, because they don't understand what that legislation is. It is just to form a commission to do the research, assemble a report, and give it to the president and the Congress, upon which they can look at the proposals to provide reparations, to atone, to acknowledge, and provide redress. So what has not happened over the years, the 34 years that it's been introduced, is Black Americans have not demanded. Yes, we've had the congressional legislation there, but Black Americans have not stood up and said, either you do this or we shut other things down. We will keep our money in our own community. We will not spend our money in any place, any corporation that does not say to the president, enact that legislation. And that is how we have to take the power and use it. Billions of dollars that go from the Black community into the hands of white American companies, you got to hold that back. My mother's from Alabama, participated in the Montgomery bus boycott, right? Was a freedom rider, was sprayed down with hoses by police, had attack dogs sicked on her, all of those things. She made a deposit, a down payment for us, for our liberties. And so we need to put a down payment on the liberties and freedoms and reparations for future generations. And we need to stop. I was on a show in Florida last week, and I called out the host and I said, you know, you're telling me that you have an addiction to the NFL and the NBA, that you have to watch them. You've got to have your ESPN. And I said, you know, so you're not willing to step back, pull your money back, and let them know you're no longer going to be a season ticket holder. You're no longer going to subscribe to these networks until those companies say to the president, enact by executive order HR 40, which is something he can do within 5 minutes. The legislation is there. That is something this president should have done on his first day after being sworn in, because Black people got him the nomination in South Carolina, right? The whip.
Yes.
Congressman
Yes.
Clyburn whipped the Democratic Party in South Carolina to nominate him, to come out and nominate him. Black Americans throughout the United States in key cities, Detroit, Atlanta, Philadelphia, right?
We carried
Chicago.
those
That's
states.
why the Republicans wanted to throw the election and say that it was illegalities. It's because these center cities, predominantly Black, came out and vote. So he got the presidency as a result of the Black vote. So he owes us, and he has not done what he should have done, and we've not demanded it. The Congressional Black
Yes.
Caucus, by and part, has requested it, but also any of you in the cities who are represented by Black members of Congress, you need to be looking at a report card. And what's on your report card, whatever legislation is important to you. So is police reform important to you? Is the George Floyd policing reform? Is the Voting Rights Act, as we see it now, all kinds of voter suppression, is that important to you? Is reparations important to you? None of that has been embraced by this administration and pushed forward as it could have been, okay? And so when we had a majority over the last 2 years in the United States Senate and the House of Representatives.
When you say we, you're saying we as Democrats?
As Democrats. I'm
Okay.
gonna say as Democrats, had a majority in the House, US House, in the Senate, and the White House. Slim majorities as they were, but they were still a majority. He could have done it without any flack, meaning enact by executive order, because when the Senate was run by the Republicans, we knew it wasn't going to go by that, even if it had passed out of the House. He could have done it and should do it. And so the legislation asked for a year for that commission, reparations commission, to be convened. So that means if this president were to convene a reparations commission by executive order this month, all the way through December of next year, it will have, well, no, really, I would say by June, it would still have a year to do its work and present its proposals, its report, and then you have it. It's codified into law. Now, we know that the Republicans might try to reverse it, but at least the work would be done, and you've got those proposals. That is what I believe Black Americans need to be looking at and questioning. We have a
And I hate to interrupt, but I thought, you know what, Janice? Because we have an international platform right here. Not only is this being recorded and the people who are here right now, we are making it available because Tim Moore is of course here, and he's going to be next. And I'm watching everybody's time because I got to be out this hotel room. But one of the things that I thought other people might have questions, but an executive order.
That's what we should be asking for. That's what we should be demanding.
But like you said, it isn't an ask.
It's a demand.
It's a demand.
You do this.
It's a demand. And Black people are like, we can't be demanding now.
No,
we sound like we're angry. We sound like we're being rude or whatever those things are. And yet, like we are ignoring our own ancestor. You called him Frederick Douglass. He said power concedes nothing without a demand.
Right. And that's the message.
Well, if you ask.
But Black Americans who consider themselves members of the Democratic Party or any other party or a non-affiliated should be sending letters. I previously worked in the White House Office of Presidential Correspondence. I was appointed by President Barack Obama. So I was one of the people who wrote the responses that you would receive if you wrote. We should be writing. We should be using social media platforms and demanding that this president, by executive order, enact HR 40. Right? They don't have to go and recreate the will. The legislation as it is can be enacted as an executive order. That should be every day, your tweets, your Instagram posts, your Facebook posts, your TikTok, whatever platforms, that is what you should be posting directly to POTUS, P-O-T-U-S, President of the United States. If you're writing a hand letter that's going to go through the Postal Service, U.S. Postal Service, all you have to do is write President of the United States. You don't even have to put 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue on it. It will get there. Now, you do have to put a stamp on it. But if you just President of the United States, or if you just put the White House and a stamp, it will get there. You can also call the switchboard of the White House. I don't know how this administration is working, but you could call the switchboard and you could say, I want the president to enact by executive order this. But always writing has more strength because it's in writing. The volumes of letters that appear, the president looks at that. And that is what the president and that is what members of Congress look at before they vote on things. How are the constituents? What do they want? What are they saying? And I have that experience of working for members of the US Senate and the US House and the White House, and they looked at it. Barack Obama would come through our office once a week and grab up a bunch of letters and see, okay, this is what the people are saying. So this is what the people, you and I, need to be doing. Don't be a keyboard gangster talking smack on the internet, on social media, unless you're actually doing something, pointing it directly at POTUS, at VP, which is Vice President Kamala Harris, at, guess what, Keisha Lance Bottoms, former mayor of Atlanta. She is now senior advisor to the President of the United States. So when you're doing your social media post, you should be tagging these people. President, you should tag POTUS, you should tag Joe Biden, you should tag VP, you should tag Kamala Harris, you should tag Keisha Lance Bottoms, Hakeem Jeffries. You should be tagging those people in your posts. But I'd like for you to write letters, letter writing campaign. Marches are great, we've done that, but we need to put the formality of writing and saying, I wrote you, I asked you, because come 2024, the election cycle, if you don't get a response to your letter, if you don't see him on television signing the executive order, the commission formed, well, I say that you should vote accordingly to that.
Ooh, now, and Janice is even more dangerous than I am. So that's why I love her. Because see, if I say it, they'll say, oh, she's in the Green Party. No, you heard Janice. Worked for presidents, worked for Congress, worked for the Senate. This woman lived in DC and she's saying it. That's why I say I'm not worthy when I'm around Janice. But they put both of us on the Detroit Reparations Task Force. That was dangerous. Now, anyone else with a question?
I didn't have a question, but I just wanted to thank, this is Reverend McCarthy, President of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. I didn't have a question, but I wanted to thank Janice for letting people know that we do hold the key to our reparations. And it's been shown to us, as she mentioned, in 1955 with our Montgomery bus boycott, where we shut down the whole city with our withdrawal of our finances. And Dr. King was a part of that. Thank you so much, ma'am. And which led to a string of other successes that the Southern Christian Leadership Conference had. Thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. I mean, that was monumental. I mean, we've had people such as Colin Kaepernick when he started taking a knee at the NFL, and he was really priming the pump to say, look, yes, my multi-million-dollar contracts are at stake, but and he is of mixed lineage. His mother is white. He was adopted by a white family, but he is a Black man in America. No matter what his white part of his lineage, he is seen as a Black man in America. And so we all need to be taking a knee, and when economic sanctions, economic forcefulness of our collective money, we can shut down everything in this United States. We are a consumer-based population. And so if you get off of your addiction of whatever type of wardrobe you use, whatever type of goods and services, If you bring that money back to the Black community like we had to when we were segregated society, that's how we were able to build millionaires in the 1800s and the early 1900s. It's because we had to circulate our
Yes,
money amongst ourselves. Well,
we had no choice.
right. I
And
pose that we do that again now and show this country, without us, you're going to lose a lot of money. And we want this. And
and we
it's not a
deserve it.
handout. Well, it's not a
We,
handout. It is wage theft. I interviewed
yes.
Bob Johnson again in 2020, and he
Well,
was
Janice, before we go to Bob Johnson, because we are going to continue these conversations, but I had a couple of questions from the chat that I wanted to get to you. Because Ernest Russell was asking, and one of the questions he asked, I couldn't remember, this is the one I remembered, is what about a state task force? Now, I want to ask you to do that in about a minute or two on a state task force, where, of course, I'm thinking, yes, please. Yes, please. And please being my nice way of saying, yes, damn it. But yes, I want to hear your thoughts on that as well. And then we're going to get Polly on here and get Tim.
I don't think that that's the route to go. You're mixing apples with basketballs. The Flint water crisis, Benton Harbor water crisis, Detroit reparations task force, those are different things. Water, those people have been paying for their water. Water is a God-given resource. It is the sewage that we are paying for. That's the bigger part of your bill if you look at it. Your water is really only about $10, $15, depending on how many people are in your household. But it's the processing of the sewage that's the $40 and $50, right? I know my bill is like around $70 because of the sewage processing. And we understand that there's a cost to that, but that and reparations are different things. So energy that I think we need to put is forcefully demanding, start writing opinion editorials for your local newspapers. Call into your radio stations. We need to focus on our energy, collective energy, on the topic of reparations, and we need to educate people. I have a white colleague who lives in Macomb County, Michigan, who is in a pretty white segregated area. But when I started educating him on what reparations are, this white man is out here in the street marching. Like, absolutely, you should be compensated for that. When they start to understand all of the racialized terrorism that we've been subjected to just for trying to be, just being, we know about homeowners who have been run out of communities because they were Black and white people didn't want them there. We have in Michigan two cases in the 1920s and the 1940s that went all the way to the Supreme Court because white Americans did not want Black people who paid for their house to live next to them. So I say use our energy and focus it toward who needs the message. It's the White House right now. You have a president who had the audacity last year, 2021 and 2022, right after the George Floyd verdict in 2021, in which there was all of this clamor because it was just so atrocious what we saw with George Floyd's murder. The questions were, well, is the United States racist? And this president said, no, it's not racist. Well, he's a racist as far as I'm concerned, because I still haven't forgiven him for the hearings and the way that he treated as Senate Judiciary Chairman Anita Hill, who's racist the way that she was treated. So I really don't think any much more that he can give because that's his perspective. Although he would say, I'm not racist.
But what about your Sora?
But yes, Kamala Harris, who is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority also, she said this country is not racist. Now, in the Constitution and in the Declaration of Independence, only white land-owning men could vote, not even white women. It was sexist and racist. Black people got the right to vote in 1870, right? Well, we got our citizenship, quote unquote,
Black men.
1870. But there were then there were poll taxes. There were all of these voter suppression things that came about to keep us from voting because they know that voting empowerment, full citizenship is very powerful. So, to have a president say that this country is not racist. Well, if you want to use semantics, okay, the country is a thing. It's not a living being, quote unquote. It doesn't have feelings, but its policies are racist at every level. The
and that
policies
is
in this
where, and I know I'm trying to get Polly on, get Tim on, and yet I gotta thank you, Janice, because you are the fire and the knowledge, the fire and the light that we're going to need up there in the reparations task force, because we are not just speaking about a city, we're speaking about a nation, and we're healing both at the same time.
Let me just add this.
Firing up everyone.
Let me just add this, and I'll leave. I also, after leaving the Hill on a couple of occasions, was a lobbyist. So I was a registered lobbyist before Congress, for industries, for broadcasting and for commercial building industry. So I was a hired gun. I actually managed the political action committee for the building industry at that time. So I had money behind me. So when I went to the Hill, and it was Republicans in the 90s, saying you can't have this, you can't do that, I'd shut them down. Trump talks about primarying people. I would do that, put money in someone else's campaign, right? That's power. And that's the type of power that Black people have in this country. So if you want to be a keyboard gangster and say whatever you want to say on these social media platforms, you should be saying, if you are, I'm not going to presume that you are, but if you are a member of the Democratic Party, you should be saying, I will not vote for any Democrat up and down the ticket, state, local, or federal, if this reparations commission is not convened by executive order in the year 2023, so that the report can be completed before this president leaves office, if he's not reelected. Who knows what will happen? That is what you need to say. It's real simple. And when that goes viral, they'll start paying attention. Oh, wow. Well, wait, hold on. Because Black people in center cities and everywhere else, you hold the power to say, I'm not voting for you. Janice Hazel, I said it in the interview yesterday. It's on record now. I will not vote for the Democratic Party in any way. I will vote for Janice Hazel. I will write my name in. I will vote for Donald Duck. I will vote for my shoe before I vote for someone who is offending me by not doing one simple thing, by enacting a commission to study how reparations could be distributed in this country. Start saying that on your social media. Say that in your letter to the White House. Say it. If you have your voter registration card, make a copy of it, put it out there in the letter. Don't put your
don't put it online. Don't put it
on the
online.
internet, because that puts your address. But say, I am a registered Democrat. If you are, you can say, if I'm a registered Republican or Libertarian or Green Party or whatever, and say, I will not vote for anybody who does not support enacting a commission right now to study reparations, so that we can then move to the next level. That's all you need.
There you go.
If you have a critical mass of people saying that, yes, there are a lot of other issues going on, but this right here is critical.
And we have to say it now.
And if you're right, I'm not voting for anybody, nobody. If you write opinion editorials, write articles to your papers, your local press that you can impose upon them to be interviewed, your local NCOBRA chapters, have a press conference and say, look, none of us, and hopefully you have a mass of Black people around you, will say, we're not voting for any candidate that does not stand up and support enactment of that legislation right now. That's
this is the beauty of this event today. So that yesterday might have been more a Democratic Party celebration, but today is a truth-telling celebration.
Well, you heard me say to the president of the Black political party here in Michigan, who was an executive member of this committee, this reparations task force that was just enacted. And I said, this is what we need to be doing. And it was, very lukewarm. Well, we can't do. Like, what do you mean we can't? We
We
can.
have to.
We
We have
can.
to. Oh, the
And
Democratic
so
Party has to. So they
party
will. They
affiliation
will.
aside, you as a citizen of the United States, say it. I will not vote for anybody, mayor, congressperson, state house, township, or the president, if you don't do this. Let us push that every day. Get your hashtags together, push it.
We'll come up with a hashtag. We will, because yes, we'll come up with a hashtag. I don't have it yet, but usually catchy hashtags, yeah, it's gonna come because you've inspired me. All right, thank you. I don't know if y'all can give a virtual hand clap for Janice Hazel.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hazel. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And power be that's right. The words are power, and then the power is also in the words. All right, well, next is a man. I feel like, how do you introduce Tim Moore? How do you introduce Tim Moore? He is the CEO of the Urban Information Network. This is a receptacle of Black media. So they're going to have this particular program that they're going to offer on their platform, and it's going to be available elsewhere in the country. So this might seem like, oh, he's a business owner, but we're talking about a business owner when you have to put your heart and soul into it. He knows the material. He's not just putting it on a platform, he's putting it in the memory. So he knows a great deal about the genocide going on in this country. Well, just like Janice is saying, we have to push the Democrats. The Democrats might not want to agree that there is genocide because that might make them a co-conspirator or part guilty. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. Come on, people. You were Black before you were a Democrat. All of us were. And you don't even get to be a Democrat if you don't get to 18. Because in order to be a Democrat, you have to be a registered voter. And to be a registered voter, you have to be 18. So if you're 17, getting shot down by the police, you never got to be a Democrat, but you still were Black. If you are a little boy playing with a toy gun in a park, you never got to be a Democrat. So we have to look out for our babies. And as Black women, when we're seeing the men are being genocided, when we see our children are being genocided, when we see our parents died in the pandemic, was that genocide? We have to ask this question and say, we the only ones left? Then we have to say this, saving my parents, saving my children, saving my grandchildren, saving our men. Because yeah, we don't want to be lonely on Saturday nights. So without further ado, we have Tim Moore talking with us, the esteemed CEO of the Urban Information Network, one of the sponsors of this program. Without further ado, Tim.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Anita Bell, I am humbled by your introduction. I'm just another brother trying to get some things done. But listen, I want to, first of all, we're Urban Information Network. We are keepers of the culture. We are the oldest operating internet TV streaming platform in the nation, not the oldest Black, the oldest period. We're based in Detroit. We have 19 affiliates, including 2 in Africa. Washington, wow. WADC, IPTV, ATL, Atlanta, Chicago, New York, DC. Let me see. We call Florida Seminole State IPTV because there's so many Black cities there. We operate Houston, Philly, Las Vegas, St. Louis, SoCal, because they've moved all the Black folks out of Southern California into the suburbs. Oh, and we have Huntsville IPTV, Birmingham IPTV. As a matter of fact, we just had brother out of Huntsville. We put his church service on Huntsville IPTV, Birmingham, Alabama IPTV, and Detroit IPTV to show all these churches in Detroit that there are other platforms. But anyway, these are topics that I am very passionate about. I can talk about the genocide. I think most people know that they're trying to eliminate us. I think a lot of folks are not taking it as serious as they should, because it is definitely an existential question. I tell people all the time that history is littered with people that don't exist anymore.
That's right.
If you know history, in New Zealand, they killed all the people there, the inhabitants. They were Black folks, down to the last woman. When they got to her, they stuffed her and put her in a museum.
Wow.
So these are the people that we're dealing with. But when we talk about reparation, it's really a hot topic now. And you understand it's hot because white folks are talking about they have Black roots. People are addressing reparations like they never have before. And really, the support for reparation is at an all-time high. They won't tell you that in mainstream media, but more people, even white folks, support reparations. But you're not going to see, especially here in Detroit, we have gone from the Black Mecca to the Negro capital of the world, of America.
Amen.
So we have things to do. But as far as reparations, people say, they're not going to give us. No, they owe us reparations. They're not giving us a damn thing. They owe us, and they owe us big time. So when we look at why we should be paid reparations, first of all, and really we have told so many lies. This thing that with Santos, the guy in New York, I think they found that he just lied about everything.
Yes.
Donald Trump made lying respectable. I mean, but they've been doing that throughout their history. The history that we have been told is like 180 degrees from the truth. 180 degrees from the truth. And we have a lot. I said we're the keeper of the culture. We have more video content about the Black experience, maybe outside of YouTube and the Library of Congress. We've been documenting and archiving so much, and it's really not. And and VIPs are important, but we've been documenting the conversations and lives of everyday people, and so that's part of what we do. But reparations. Initially, when this country started, it was an agricultural country. And the people that really did the agriculture were mostly European. Now, this is counting us, some of the stuff that I say is going to be at odds to what you have been taught, but everything that I tell you, you can Google. Well, even Google is not the best place now, but it's a lot of information that's there, because Google at some point, they're going to be the go-to platform for everything. And when they put it, when you Google a picture of King Tut and they show a picture of a white boy, we have a problem. Okay.
Yes.
So that means we have to develop our own sources to arbitrate the truth of what's going on. But anyway, so that information is there. But the white folk, actually the people who did develop the agriculture in America initially were white folks from Europe. They came from the prisons, the poorhouses, the asylums, and the street. They were from the dregs of Europe. Really, they sent them here so they wouldn't have to feed them. Okay, when they wore them out, and a lot of them escaped as well. They call them indentured servants, but they were really slaves. And one of the indentured servants that got away was Ben Franklin, by the way. That information is readily available. So they start bringing in Africans. And so, but actually, there were Africans here in America even before the Pilgrims and Columbus got here, even before the Mongolians, the people from Asia, where they say they came from the northern route out of Siberia down into America. There were Black people here then. And when I heard that information, like a few years ago, I was skeptical, but it's more and more information coming out that there was a lot of Black people here in America before even they got here. And so, and the white organizations and institutions and study groups and universities, they're finding out this information. They know this information now. So they're changing their strategy, because they know when they say that Columbus discovered America, they sound like a bunch of idiots.
Right.
Because they know that there was Black people here. He discovered America for white people.
Yes.
But Africans were here. So anyway, so when they brought these Africans and the ones from the continent, initially they got them from the coast. Eventually they started bringing them from the interior. So when they captured these people, and the average age was like 12, 13, 14 years old. So they put them in chains and they marched them from the interior, sometimes 1,000 miles to the coast. And it took months and months. And the weakest of these people died out during that journey. So they brought them to the coast of West Africa, and you hear about some of those dungeons. And the boats, they weren't lined up to bring the people over. So they had to get there because they were busy, collecting people and dropping them off in other parts of the Americas. So sometimes they stayed in these dungeons for like months at a time, it was horrible. But amazingly, some of these people survived. Then after that, after the two filtering processes, they got the Middle Passage, where they treated them badly there. When people died out, they just Africans that died, they just threw them overboard and fed the sharks. Matter of fact, the sharks used to follow the boats for an easy meal. Wow. So when they got to the Americas, we weren't Africans anymore. We were African Americans. And when we got, but let me just say, when we got here, these people, because we all, and science has showed this, DNA has showed we have superior genes. This is not, we're not hating on anybody. These are facts that's easily available, okay? We have superior genes. But when they brought us here, and after weeding the people out, not only were they the strongest physically, but these were the strongest people mentally, our answers, probably in human history, y'all. We were, these African Americans, we were the strongest people in human history. So they had to work on our brains, and they did that big time. So that part of who we are, and because when Miss Hazel talked about Janice Hazel, when she talked about super Black people, we were superhumans. But because of what we had went through, we were superhumans, because it's no way that we could have survived what they did to us for 400 years. And because of what we did, we enabled this country, because they say the most profitable thing that you could have in any business or anything is to have a human being working for you for free. But when you have superhuman beings, that's a fact. When you have superhuman beings working for you for free, then you could do things unimaginable than any country, any civilization in human history. That's what we did for America.
Amen.
That's part of it. So then they took our intellect, because they talk about, the invention, because they didn't let us patent invention. And do you think that when we started working the plantation, whether tobacco or cotton, do you think the white folks who were sitting on the porch, came up with ideas for labor saving? No, it was the Black people that came up with ways to cut down on the labor and save work. And the white folks, they patent these ideas that these Black folks had, including cotton gin and many other things that we did. So they stole our intellect there. And there's a number of videos that show how many inventions that we created.
Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but God delivers them from them all. The reality is, life is a struggle. But there is no progress without struggle.
Here's what I'm going to do, because we want to make sure to give everybody a chance to ask questions. The comments going on in the chat are just phenomenal. Let me see if I can grab a couple of them, because you have questions coming to you. But one of the questions that I have is that, of course, you were mentioning the various cities where you already have, let's call it what it is, a national news network.
We aim to replace cable, Comcast as the platform. That's our goal.
Okay. And that's where, of course, we want more people to know that this is information available, that you can have your regular sources, but you want to also check out these sources, because these are sources where you may find out what I call a different truth. Some people would say that what they're saying is truth. I am supposed to be learning how to be politically correct, so I don't want to say necessarily that people are lying. I'm just going to say that this is a different truth. And apparently people can pick and choose which truth they want to believe. It's truth is sort of just like, it's optional, I guess. Anyway, so those people who have a different truth, then you can look for that truth here. All right, because Trump's called it Truth Social. I'm like, that's comical. Anyway, so any other questions for Tim? Any of our co-hosts, because I have some people like Reverend McCarthy, and who else? Any other questions for Tim?
No, I would just like to have his contact number. This is Reverend McCarthy. Mr. Moore, if you don't mind, would you please leave your contact number with Ms. Bell for me?
Oh, I talk to Anita all the time.
Oh, yes, yes. But Tim, go ahead and give out your website.
Parent site is uintv.net, but we have 19 affiliate cities, including New York IPTV.com, ATL IPTV, which is Atlanta. And we did it like that because every city has a personality. It has its own idiosyncrasies, whereas some of the other networks, they try to do everything in one place at one website. But our strategy is a little different. And so I'll definitely get that information to you, and I'll try to reach out to you this week.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, yes. Any other questions? And I want to also open it up for comments. Any other comments? One of the comments that I saw from Brother Ernest Russell, let me read it out loud because maybe some people can't see the comments. And he said, let's see, where was he? Governor Whitmer and Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist have not mentioned Detroit Task Force in any capacity on their Twitter or Facebook, but all other political agendas are mentioned. Yes, that goes back to a little bit what Janice was mentioning by holding the Democratic Party more accountable. Yes, that we don't want to have. Yesterday was an accomplishment. It was an accomplishment. I won't even go into all of the politics behind the politics that got us to that accomplishment. But when I like to say that secretly blood has been shed. Secretly, people have made sacrifices. And some of the sacrifices aren't as secret. Just this program today. If you all knew what we all been through to get this here today.
It's been a challenge.
It was a challenge, but thank God. Thank God. So these are the things that we want to say. Even like Janice said, it's not even a political party. Because if I said, all right, I'm going to run for president as a Green on the reparations, now I got to fight the Green Party to get even the nomination. And it is a fight. And I won't even go through what that fight is, because these are the challenges that we're dealing with. But Janice had her hand up. You had a comment? Go ahead, Janice.
Hi, yes, I saw Ernest Russell's remark in the chat, and I responded by saying I wouldn't be concerned about what the governor of Michigan or the lieutenant governor are saying about reparations at this time. They're playing to a large audience, which we know that there are members of the residents in the state of Michigan that don't have an appetite for reparations. But that's where, once again, your power, the power that you have as a resident and in your own networks, come in. Write the governor. I had the governor on a radio show that I produced yesterday. I'm in conversations with her office all the time. They actually contact me to be on a show on 910 AM Superstation because they value the host and how we approach issues. And we ask the hard questions. We asked the Attorney General before the election. You know, you got to put people on blast before their election and get their commitments. So we asked the Attorney General back in the fall, what are you going to do about the $600 million of overassessment, overtaxation for the city of Detroit? And she said she will be looking into it. So of course, we're going to come back and say, okay, what's going on? Because I, Janice Hazel, am owed $5,005 from that overassessment. The city of Detroit has not denied that they overassessed people, overtaxed us, because they were not doing reassessments every 2 years as required by our charter. They don't deny it. It's just that they're saying we cannot take that money from the general fund. Okay, miss me with that, because the state constitution has been amended at least 36 times. And that is because the people have requested or asked or demanded something, right? So when individuals, legislators tell you, Congress people, members of your state legislature say, oh, we can't do that because of the Constitution. I have taken an oath to uphold the US Constitution on many occasions when I have been working in the Congress, working in the White House. But see, that's a very challenging thing for me because the Constitution didn't recognize me as a human being initially. And how did it recognize me and other people who look like me as a human being and then allow us to vote and become full citizens? By amendment, right? So these documents can be amended and revised as needed, as required, as demanded.
As demanded.
So, you know, if you don't see our governor or any other elected official not speaking to this issue, then you got to demand that you got to put them on blast. You got to go to your newspapers. You need to write your own. You need to, I mean, because of social media, you could stand up with your own phone and create your own press conference, right?
There you go.
Right? You've got someone here from a Black network. This is interesting. And see, this is where the rubber meets the road. You know, we had an ice storm in southern Michigan on Wednesday, right? So there are communities in Michigan. DTE Energy stated that there were over 900,000 people, or shall I say the press reported, because there are other energy companies in Michigan, that there were over 900,000 residents without power, right? Family members of mine are without power. Those that chose to stay in their houses as opposed to come to other family members' homes like mine, I still have power. Or go to a hotel, they didn't have what? They didn't have television. Mm-hmm. A transistor radio, they're listening to a transistor radio, right? And so that tells you that we can still circulate information to people through means of 30 years ago. Internet's only 30 years old, right? So you still can get your messages out. You've got the Black press, got over 200 papers in the Black press, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, NNPA. That's another hashtag. When you are writing your your letters, your emails, your all of your social media posts. NNPA, National Newspaper Publishers Association. The
Okay.
members are the Michigan Chronicle, the Chicago Defender, all of the Black press, right? So tag them.
Okay.
You know, I know the brother who's the owner of Rolling Out newspaper magazine. He's out of Atlanta. Tag Rolling Out, right? Tag
Okay.
yours, Black, what is it, IPTV? Tag, if that's your social media handle, tag them to
Yes.
repeat it. Tag in your social media posts. And I think that's something that NCOBRA should do, is have another session about how to advocate, right?
And that is,
How
there
do
you go.
advocate for something in your community? It's reparations, but it's everything else, you know. And a lot of people think that advocacy lobbying is real difficult. A baby is a lobbyist. When a baby is crying, people are going to jump in that house, right? Because that baby either needs to be fed or its diaper needs to be changed. They are lobbying at the very basic level. And people jump to attention to attend to their demands, because that baby's not going to stop crying until its diaper is changed, or it gets something to eat, or that baby's telling you that there's another problem. They might be having a digestive issue. They might be colicky, whatever their issue is, or they may just want to be held. But a baby knows how to lobby and advocate for itself. So we should take our cues from children, babies. They advocate all day, every day, right? So one of your sessions, and I would be willing to assist, because I did write a book over 30 years ago on how to lobby Congress. And see, I taught white men how to lobby. Those were members of the trade associations that I worked for. Donald Trump was one of them. You know, when
wow.
you're commercial building industry.
Hey, don't give all the secrets away right now. Hold on, don't give all them away right now.
People have to be taught how to advocate and lobby at those levels. And when they come to Washington for their industry's Capitol Hill Day, which is what I would organize for the commercial building industry and for the broadcasting industry when I worked for public broadcasting, we would have a day of sessions, forums, and teach people how to go to the Hill and talk to their legislators, the staff, and
that's what I'm going to do.
So those are
and that's what I'm going to do, Janice. I'm going to make sure. Let's see if I can, for NCOBRA's convention that's in June, I'm going to make sure that that's part of what is presented for that. So hold on, you have started something. You have started something. So let me see. I wanted to give us a chance to hear some of the music that I had promised these artists I would play. One of them is, let's see, you had heard at the very beginning, and I'm going to play it again. This is called Sequoia's Eyes, and it's by Braxton Van Sant. And then I'm going to play at the end one of Polly's songs. And then I'm going to also make sure that we get to my presentation as well. So right now I'm going to present to you. Let me go into YouTube again. These are local artists. Uh-oh. All right, it's doing that. Shoots. I called myself, had it all planned.
Just as a warning, we probably can't hear it.
Pardon?
So I don't think we can hear anything you're playing on the computer right now.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. You can't hear it anyway? All right. All right. Well, forget that. Let me go ahead and bring up my board and we'll get to the last part because I had some questions going on in the chat. Yes, Ernest Russell, definitely. We have your email address. We are going to be in touch with you. I saw something also from Shireen. Yes, she's saying, excellent idea, Janice Hazel. We do need to learn how to advocate for reparations. Yes, all of these things. And another comment from Kalila Hopkins. When Jesse Ventura was governor, he paid back, refunded to the people the overpayment of taxation. He found a way to do it that eliminated the government's ability to tax the payback to the people as income. Because that's hilarious that when you pay people back, the money that you stole them. Now you want to tax that money to come back to you. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So, so let me go to sharing my screen. When we talk about, at least when you all are seeing this, and I will present this and have this available also afterwards, but what I was trying to talk a little bit about is repairing Black genocide above and below with reparations and universal basic income from asteroid mining. This is controversial, but let's talk about how we got to where we are. Let's look at America perhaps trying to pretend it's bankrupt, just like Detroit went through a bankruptcy about 10 years ago. So Detroit is America's blackest city for about 40 years. Before the year 2013, we had a Black mayor and a Black city council. Now, the history that we tend to believe ourselves and tell ourselves is that Detroit supposedly went broke because of our corrupt Black politicians. That's their story, and they're sticking to it. And so since that's the story, all the Michigan cities once upon a time had Black majorities. Those same cities wound up then having emergency managers. So that means that we did not have a right to govern ourselves for a period of time in Michigan. When we're talking about, even when we're talking about reparations in Michigan, that's one of the issues that comes up. Michigan's Black majorities have now got no representation in Congress. Michigan's Black majorities supposedly, after having emergency managers imposed upon us to govern us, supposedly we started electing white men to govern us because we felt we couldn't govern ourselves. That's what supposedly happened over the last 10 years. So even though we supposedly are not capable of governing ourselves, Detroiters supposedly voted for reparations. And we wanted that reparations to be then distributed by a white mayor. That's what supposedly happened in 2021. Now, we have, instead of representation in Congress, we have Kamala Harris and Garland Gilchrist as our chosen messiahs, but we don't have the critical thinking masses that we used to have as far as congressional representation. So America's population, as we know, is shifting from a white majority to a Black and brown majority, where that majority will be Blacks and Hispanics. And that is designated or projected to happen in the next 10 years. So at first it was 20 years, then the pandemic actually expedited that time schedule. So now it's looking like that is about 10 years away. So if the Hispanics are the descendants of the indigenous, and your African Americans, the predominant amount of them are the descendants of enslaved Africans, then you're going to owe reparations when, if you don't want to pay it now in 2023, then in about 2033, when Blacks and Hispanics are the majority, they're going to impose reparations upon you. This is what white people know, that if Hispanics have citizenship and can vote, and these are the descendants of the indigenous, and they ever wake up and think of themselves as descendants of the indigenous instead of descendants of the Spanish colonizers, when they realize that they're the descendants of the indigenous and want reparations, and they are in a majority with Blacks, who are the descendants of enslaved Africans, and they want reparations, then in 10 years, reparations can happen. And that's why you have white people talking about it right now. Now, America also is pretending that it's broke, we can't pay you, and therefore they're trying to get out of it, cheap way out. And I thought you needed to know this because that is what's coming up when they're saying we want to talk about reparations right now. Because they know 10 years from now, when we talk about reparations, the check is going to be bigger because our numbers are bigger. We have the majority. So while they have the majority, they're trying to write you a check for $12.62, and they're trying to cry broke. Now, they're crying broke for several reasons. First of all, the Federal Reserve debt. The Federal Reserve debt is the only debt that the United States is recognizing. Just let that sink in. When they say the 31 trillion and they're trying to raise the debt ceiling, they're only talking about that Federal Reserve debt, a Federal Reserve agency that wasn't even created until 1913. 1913 is the same year as the 16th Amendment. So for those of you who might not be as familiar with history, then that debt, when they're talking about the 31 trillion, that is the number that just wanted you to know that that's the debt they're recognizing. That does not include our reparations. That does not include any money for the indigenous. So our debt pre-exists or supersedes the Federal Reserve debt because our debt, we're saying, is based upon 40 acres and a mule, which is something was Special Field Order 15 from 1865. So that debt pre-exists 1913. If anybody that's familiar with bankruptcy law knows what we're talking about, the date that you incur the debt makes a priority in who gets paid. So our debt is 1865. Federal Reserve debt, or the 31 trillion that they racistly recognize, that debt is from 1913. But let's go even further because they don't want to talk about reparations, and this is a very touchy subject even for some Black people. The debt that is owed to the indigenous goes back even before 1865. So that the United States is claiming that their right to this, their right to govern, their right to exist, their right to exist is based upon winning a war against England and those 13 colonies becoming states. That was won in 1776. But that's 13 states and the Washington, D.C. area. That does not explain all 50 states and some territories. The rest of that you got from the indigenous. And that was an invasion. It was unprovoked. It was just as wrong as you say Russia is going into the Ukraine. And yet you say you have a right to exist, and this is your airspace, this is your space. That is an issue. That is an issue. All right, I'm going to have to find a way to charge my phone because nothing is charging. All right, so those are the things that are coming up in the next 10 years. Reparations causes inflation. You have economist Sandy Darity talking about this. How do you implement reparations without causing inflation? Because America is a capitalist society. Capitalism is actually the opposite of democracy. If democracy is everybody is equal, then capitalism actually thrives and is based upon inequality. So under what happened with racism, then the inequality of capitalism basically says that white supremacy means the more we have, the more Black people have, the less white people are worth. because the more they have, the less we're worth. It is a competing sort of didactic. So just remember, racism and white supremacy means that the more Black people have, the less white people have is worth. So as we talk about reparations, the stock market is falling. It is not a coincidence. We are the stock. And if we start demanding to be paid, then that's less money for them. So the stock market is crashing and inflation is rising. But America has the ability to pay, even though they're crying broke. So America is crying broke, saying that we won't have Social Security in 10 years, around the same time when Blacks and Hispanics become the majority. That's when they're estimating that Social Security is supposed to crash. So imagine all of the people that you know who are surviving off of Social Security, and that might be either as a retiree or as somebody who is, let's be honest, disabled. And now we have, now there we go, we got charging power. So if you're disabled, or you have been disabled, as I like to call it, because you can't find a job, because you're not allowed to make money, because quite honestly, you're being discriminated against. So you have to claim disability, even if you have to fake crazy. Then there's saying that these people where their safety net income of Social Security is about to be taken away 10 years from now, when Blacks and Hispanics are about to become a majority, so that what is being created is discord and chaos. People won't be able to eat. They're creating the circumstances for a civil war and disintegration of the society, all because they're trying to maintain white supremacy, even if they have to do that through apartheid. So in these remaining minutes, let me go ahead and break this down for you. America has the ability to pay. America and China are on Mars right now, supposedly looking for life. First of all, don't let them tell you that they're looking for intelligent life. Don't fall for that. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. They set up an intelligence test where they're the ones that pass it. If you say you're looking for intelligent life and you are the sole judge of what is intelligent, then that means that you now have given yourself permission to kill any other type of life you find. There is something wrong with that, because that's the same kind of position America took when it went to Africa, when it went to America. That's the same type of colonization mentality that is used to go around the planet and just take, because these people aren't intelligent. They aren't even people, let alone if they're a virus. But who gave you the right to play God and say which viruses live and don't live on somebody else's planet? But that is how genocide is actually a profit-making venture. And you can see how it's repeating history, even if there is any kind of life on Mars. So what makes you say that germs don't have a right to live on their planet? But germs can commit warfare, even by accident, through outbreaks and pandemics. So NASA is an American space program that's planning on launching to the Psyche asteroid in the Martian asteroid belt on October 1st, 2023. So when I talk about science, I'm talking about right now. This is not science fiction. I'm not saying, okay, y'all, this is something from Star Trek. Ooh, I got my I got my sources from Deep Space Nine. No, this is off of NASA's website, and I will show you. The mission is scheduled to launch on October 1st of 2023. It was postponed from last year. It is a space mission that is scheduled to land. If it launches on October 1st, then it's scheduled to land on the Psyche asteroid in August of 2029. So here are these dates now. Remember that I said they got this plan for the next 10 years to destabilize the country. Yet at the same time, they know that they're going to have the money and they were trying to hoard it and keep it for themselves. Just being blunt. But what is Psyche? What is this asteroid? So an Italian astronomer discovered this asteroid, because you know it's not discovered till white people found it. It wasn't there, but until they found it. So an Italian astronomer discovered Psyche in 1852 and named it after the Greek goddess of the soul. Now, what I like to say, because I'm a Detroiter, first of all, is that in many monotheistic religions, God is a male. So as soon as you start talking about goddesses, and now God is not one, God is two, God is many. So, you know, some people don't want to hear God is many because that's now polytheism. Apparently that makes a monotheistic God mad and jealous. So women can't be God. Since women can't be God, then they're reduced to queens. So the Queen of Soul. Queen of Soul, where did I hear that? I think somebody from Detroit was called that. So should we call Aretha Franklin Psyche? Anyway, if she's not Psyche, maybe she's psychic. But the Psyche asteroid in the Martian asteroid belt is a queen of soul who is worth 10,000 quadrillion dollars. Those ain't my words. That's from Forbes. So I hope you all can see this. If you can't see this slide, I'm sorry, I'm trying to broadcast from my phone. But on this slide, I show you that it is the JPL, which is the Jet Propulsion Laboratory at the California Institute of Technology, that is showing that the Psyche mission is launching on October 1st, 2023. Then you see the copy of the Forbes article that shows you what they say is their rendition of the Psyche asteroid, so you can see it. And this is what is supposedly worth 10,000 quadrillion dollars. So you'll have somebody like Adelia posting saying the United States owes African Americans 17 trillion. And when she says 17 trillion, I'm still thinking she's being quite generous. The debt is really higher than that. But at 17 trillion, which is already more than half of the 31 trillion national debt that America already has. So what Adelia is saying is that the debt for the United States is not 31 trillion. The debt for the United States is actually closer to 48 trillion. But our debt is not recognized. And yet, this is the debt that America must pay to save itself, to redeem itself. That just calling yourself paying the national debt, that 31 trillion, and then leaving us out in the cold again. Oh, you all just wait a little bit longer. You've gotten all the way to 2029, gotten to an asteroid. You're sitting on 10,000 quadrillion dollars, and we're supposed to still wait. Your debt is only 48 trillion. Somebody is hearing the math. Quadrillion is far more than a trillion. You can afford to pay reparations. Let's talk about what 10,000 quadrillion dollars really looks like. What that asteroid is able to do, because this is also in the Forbes article, is that out of the 8 billion Earthlings on this planet, that asteroid alone, and that's just one asteroid, can afford to pay each Earthling $93 billion. So when you have NASA getting ready to launch to that asteroid in October of this year, and America telling you, we can't afford to pay reparations. Detroit telling you, well, you know, we can give you a house. Evanston telling you 25,000. You are the first Black people in you to get reparations. Y'all need to know. They getting off cheap. They can afford to pay what they owe. And 17 trillion is still them getting off cheap. All right. America can afford to redeem itself through Ruby. And this is how you get some white people to sign on. What is Ruby? Ruby is reparations and universal basic income. You heard universal basic income being thrown around a lot during the 2020 election by some of the Democratic candidates. And this might be a way to make some white people buy into reparations if they saw what's in it for them. Okay, you have this Martian asteroid that's able to end poverty on Earth if it was going to be distributed equally. Capitalism means it's not equally distributed. But one thing that we have to make sure that happens when we are demanding reparations is that we know America can afford to pay. So, since you can afford to pay, we're demanding that you do pay. One of the things that I did recently was charge America with Black genocide in violation of the United Nations Treaty Against Genocide, and then use the cases, and this is a whole separate presentation, use the cases from when I sued the CIA for the drugs in the Black community, use those cases and their companion cases as the basis for the Black genocide claim. Those cases had exhausted domestic measures. Therefore, they qualified to meet the requirements for the UN to at least look at a claim of Black genocide. This is just one of several cases. I mean, George Floyd is just another example of Black genocide. There have been reports by international bodies of police killings being found as genocide by international bodies. One of those reports was released in 2021. Like Tim would say, you never hear about this. He reports it on UIN, but did you hear it on 2, 4, and 7? 2, 4, and 7 is ABC, CBS, and NBC. You didn't hear it from them. You didn't hear it from CNN. You didn't hear it from Fox. You didn't hear it from any of those mainstream media. You'll hear instead Kamala Harris saying Russia is committing crimes against humanity. But where is the accountability for America and the crimes against the humanity that they have committed and that they are committing right now? So the case that's in the United Nations because of that case is in the United Nations for the anti-genocide treaty, then those nations that are signers to that anti-genocide treaty were invited to this event today. This will be made available for them so that they can view it later today. But what the message that we're trying to put across today is that as Earth faces another world war, and Black genocide is put off on the back burner again, we're at the end of the international decade of people of African descent. The United Nations declared 2015 to 2024 the International Decade of People of African Descent. It would have been good during that international decade to end this whole idea of no reparations. It would have been good before 2024 ends to have reparations being paid to the people of African descent during the decade of African descent, of those people of African descent. So that's one thing that while Janice is talking about, we need to push this now. We need to push this now, not just on a national level, but internationally, because our decade ends around the same time as the next presidential election. We want reparations. This is our time. 2025, we're not talking 2025. You gave us a decade, and for that whole decade, you wasted our time. Again, after hundreds and hundreds of years, we can demand right now. We ain't taking that anymore, especially since we know America has the ability to pay. Matter of fact, we also are saying that reparations is in the best interest of America's national security. Because let's be blunt, if America is going to nuclear war, Detroit is a target. I'm sorry, maybe the Democrats don't want me to say that either, but Detroit is a target. In Monroe, Michigan, or Monroe County, which is less than 50 miles away, is a nuclear plant. You already see that they say from Ukraine that Russia is targeting nuclear plants. And if you were a military looking at trying to take advantage or invade or destroy, then Detroit is in between a nuclear plant in Monroe County, and then in Macomb County, you have an Air Force base. So if you hit the nuclear plant or the Air Force base or both, Detroit would be cannon fodder. We're right there in the middle. Detroit just started a reparations commission, and I'm one of the ones ready to say, Russia, China, can you hold off on bombing America or NATO? Not NATO, let's not put NATO in this. Can you hold off bombing America and Canada? Because we trying to get paid, and we can't get paid if they're destroyed. That sounds almost patriotic, but it's true. As long as you owe me, I'm never broke. So you got to stay here a little bit longer because you got to pay me. You have the means to pay. You have the ability to pay. And if you even have to pay everybody else on this planet that you did wrong, and there's a long line. Y'all know there's a long line. America wants to pretend to be the beacon of democracy, but really is it Earth's evil empire? So if everybody that America has done wrong outside of NATO stood and said, we want universal basic income, and some of them saying, if you don't give it to us, we're going to push this button, and this button is going to cause a nuclear war, I'd rather pay them off, get my reparations too, and that's how we save America and redeem America. So that is the conclusion, that please don't bomb America, Russia, and China, because they're getting ready to pay us. And America, I'd say, you need to pay us, because if you don't, what's going to stop them from pushing the button? All right. Any questions? Comments?
Okay. So you see this contact form. It says contact us, right? Is that what you guys see?
Yes.
All right. So you get here from, I put it in the chat, whitehouse.gov, or you could do whitehouse.gov/contact/. You see at the top, that's the address. And I did put that in the chat. So contact us, real simple. Select the, you want to contact the president, right? Mr. President, I'm sorry. Contact you, the president. Okay, you are doing this. So I'm a Ms. Your name, your middle name if you have one, your suffix, whatever. Fill all of this out. Put your email address, put your phone number, country, street, city, state, and then what you want to say. And I put in the chat a sample draft letter. You can copy and paste it in there and then just press send, right?
Beautiful.
And so that's how you can write the White House. And so someone said they couldn't see what I put in the chat. I am not sure what you can see, but on my screen, and let me stop sharing this, and then I can show you what I put in the chat, as I'm not sure what other people can see.
Yes, if some people are calling in on a phone, I don't know if they can see the chat.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, basically in the chat, so I stopped sharing, right? Okay.
Okay.
So I'm on a PC, and so I'm not sure what you can see, but in the chat, I put how to write the president. It's actually a Word document that you can download. I wasn't able to copy and paste the information into the chat. For some reason, when I try to paste, nothing comes in. So I attached a document, but either
Okay.
way, I'll send this to Anita. She has all of your email addresses, I imagine, and she can send this to you. But
yes,
it's real easy. Oh, you know what? Let me just share my screen and show you that real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
And
then we're going to also allow for people to ask questions, because I'm looking in the chat and said, oh, great, we have all of these questions. And I wanted to make sure that people knew what website that they could go to get some more. I'm going to post this content on reparationslaborunion.org. Yes.
Okay. So here's,
yes,
if you can see my screen, here's a draft letter and the contact. So you can see, you would just go to whitehouse.gov/contact/. And this is the overriding email address, right? I'm sorry, website, whitehouse.gov/get-involved or get-involved/write-or-call, right? And if you Google this, it should come up. How do I write the White House? It should come up. Call the White House. These are the phone numbers: 202-456-1111, the Capitol Hill switchboard 202, or the White House switchboard 202-456-1414. So if you call this number, the comment line, it'll be recorded. Please leave your message. The switchboard, you'll actually get a live person. You'll state, I want the president to enact HR 40 by executive order. Okay, and that's great, but writing is better. Okay, so if you submit your contact in that contact form, then that will go straight to the Presidential Correspondence Office. And when we get a critical mass, the president's going to start looking at this. Like, wow, these people are there. This is how you write President Joe Biden, the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 200-500. And if you don't do that, if you just write the president or the White House, you don't even have to put the city or state, it will get there. Just put a stamp on it. Those who might need a TTY or TTD, that you can call the comment line at 202-456-6213. Now, that's some other information, but
the draft letter is great.
Anita will put that. But this is the draft letter. The White House, the salutation: dear Mr. President, I am writing to request you issue an executive order in light of the stalling of Congress of HR 40 and S40, that's the Senate companion bill, the commission to study and develop reparations proposals for African Americans. And you can say whatever else you want to here. This is just some draft language that I have put in. Issuing an executive order to create this commission would be a fitting way to demonstrate your commitment to pursuing racial justice and equality in this country, or put your message. You gave a speech upon signing the Juneteenth Day bills, in which you stated, see, this is calling him on the carpet, quote, great nations don't ignore their most painful moments. They confront them to grow stronger. And that is what this great nation must continue to do, end quote. That's what the president said when he signed Juneteenth. Juneteenth Day means nothing. It is symbolic. So, and you need to say it. But Mr. President, this great nation has continued to deny our most painful moments by not providing full justice and reparations for Black people for centuries of human rights violations that continue to be perpetrated through racist systems. Making Juneteenth a federal holiday was symbolic action. In the absence of tangible reparative measures, Black constituents continue to ask This administration does my life matter. As president, you could move beyond symbolism by creating a federal commission to study and develop reparations proposals. I am a registered voter, and this is very particular to you if you are a Democrat. Otherwise, put your own language. But I'm saying I am a registered voter and a member of the Democratic Party, and I will only vote for candidates in 2024 that support reparations. And Mr. President, if you cannot enact HR 40 and S 40 in 2023 as an executive order so that the commission has a year to do its work and submit their report before December 2024, I cannot vote for you or any other person that runs for your office and other Democratic Party public offices. Your name, your address, your city and state. Boom. You can insert your own, but basically that's saying it. It's making it simple. And that's my position. If this president does not enact it, I can't vote for you again. Can't vote for you, can't vote for Kamala, can't vote for any Democrat. And
Wow.
that is your power. If you are not a member of the Democratic Party, which you can vote for members, outside of your primaries, you can vote for anybody. But
Yes.
you need to say it. I mean, whatever party affiliation you are, if you're an independent, whatever, if you've never voted before in your life, but you are a registered voter, you can say, I will not vote for you. And even more so, put in there, and I will tell all of my friends and family not to vote for you. See, that starts to talk in the language that they understand, reelection.
Very good.
Right? So I just wanted to be sure of that. I hope you're able to download it from the chat. I don't know about
I'm going to post it. I'm going to post it and this is going in the next newsletter. This is going in the next newsletter so that you are, I almost want to say, what is your sign, Janice? Oh, God.
Capricorn. I'm the same as Muhammad Ali. I call myself a Muhammad Ali, Denzel Washington, Debbie Allen, Richard Nixon, Capricorn. And I put Richard Nixon in there because Richard Nixon was actually a good president. His ego and his thirst for power is what got him in trouble. But when you look at Richard Nixon, he's the reason as vice president and as president instituted the Small Business Administration, and by extension, the Minority Small Business Administration.
Can I add to that?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
It was the Nixon administration that approved a loan we got from the SBA to start the pizza place that we operated for 35 years.
Yep.
Wow.
In the Nixon administration. Yes,
absolutely.
He did.
So, he got into trouble, but he actually had some good policies. So I am a Capricorn. I had a relationship with Muhammad Ali, so I knew his thought process. I have
Janice,
Washington.
don't tell that part.
But no, I mean, these are people that I have had an opportunity to have in my life at different junctures. And so we all know that Muhammad Ali was a staunch advocate for nonviolence.
Yes.
He stated, I will not go to war. I will not go over there and fight a war with people who've done nothing to me.
There you go.
So that was a nonviolent act. And it was just great to be able to hear him say that first person. And we need to look at that. When you take a stand, yes, you're going to be potentially personally persecuted, but what cost is freedom? What cost?
And that is where we are. That is where we are. Now, I have 3 minutes because I got to check out this hotel. But let me tell you, you all have made Reparations Awareness Day. You have made it an action day. An action day. You have your marching orders, everybody. This is not what you call someplace where you just spectate, and Black History Month is just something that happens around you. No, this is your part in creating Black history right now. You heard the marching orders. We have to write because the pen is mightier than the sword. Use your words. We tell the children when we're teaching school, use your words, not your fist. And trust me, your words do you have power, because what you have been saying has come true. That's the part of melanin that I didn't even go into, how your dreams start manifesting. That's going to be the last song that we're going to play. This has been an honor. I am in the company of greatness. I love being able to give greatness a platform, because yes, Capricorn shines. Tim, I would say, what is your sign?
Gemini.
Air sign, air sign. Air signs, of course, we fix the air. We set the air. So, and we set the air for earth signs like Capricorn, because those two are a Merkaba. I'm going too much into Judaism for some people, and going into Kabbalah, which is actually Kabbalah, and going into too much there. I don't even have time. It's 12 o'clock. But I want to say that thank you all for coming. Thank you for speaking. We wanted to have music because Detroit is a music capital as far as I'm concerned. And that's how I get my head straight, to bring it to you by listening to certain songs and by bringing you the people who sing me to a certain place, take me to a certain place. And I wish we can do it, but Tim is going to put it in post. All right, y'all. So we're going to do our 7 Harambe's. You have your marching orders. It's going to be posted so that you can say, oh, I don't remember what to write. Oh, I don't remember what to say. We're going to give you the words to say, but also use your own words. Be your own sword. And write it. Write it. Because write the vision. Write the vision, and then let Biden, let Duggan, let Gretchen, let Garland, let Kamala run the vision. All right, y'all, 7 Harambe's. No, if I stand up, you can't see me. Okay. All right. We take a fist, we hold it, and hold the 7th one. And Harambe means let's all pull together. When we pull together, we really are superhuman and unstoppable. We become a force of nature. So let us all pull together 7 times, and let me check out this hotel. All right, bring it down to your heart. Harambe.
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 Harambe. Harambe. Harambe. Harambe. Harambe. All right. All right. That was your best.
All right, y'all. Thank you.